It's Charles MacKenzie from Infected Blood Australia, and today I'd like to make a video about why it is that pretty much everyone turns away from the subject matter of Australia's deadliest medical scandal, contaminated blood. Well, this is a subject that I'm very interested in because I ask that question myself quite often. And just recently I was watching a documentary, and in the documentary some disturbing scenes were going to come on screen that involved children in distressing situations. And I instantly pressed pause on the remote control and I thought, I'm not going to watch this. I can't do it to myself. I didn't want to have, images or sounds of children in distress in my head. But then I thought, well, hold on a second. I'm not going to watch that. I'm going to dismiss that. I'm going to dismiss that someone else is suffering. But at the same time, I'm going to campaign for others to help something like tainted blood, to help tainted blood victims. And they might want to turn away because this has distressing things in it too. Children in distress, adults in distress, families destroyed, people losing their lives to HIV/AIDS and hepatitis C, governments blaming victims instead of helping victims. I mean, that's what's happened in Australia. Victims are blamed more than we're helped here by the government. We're cast as ungrateful. We're cast as people who would be dead anyway without the blood, which is a falsehood in most cases. So it's a very, very difficult thing. And here I was watching this documentary and I thought, I'm going to save my day and I'm not going to watch. And so it made me realise, I think that's what the issue is with tainted blood. A lot of people think, blood, they're squeamish, the terrible things that can happen with contaminated blood. And so they think, I'm not going to watch this. I'm not going to spoil my day. Okay. Right. Well, I have actually, over the decades, hit that pause on the remote control, asked the question whether I can watch. And if it has involved people suffering in unjust circumstances, I've continued to watch. Because I have the philosophy, how can I ask for help for victims of Australia's deadliest medical scandal when it's such a tough and challenging issue, and yet not look upon other people's pain and try and look for ways to help them? So that's what I do. I don't turn away. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to watch distressing scenes. And in fact, as gatekeepers of our own minds, it might be better in some situations that you don't. But what about if you could be helpful? What about if we could actually correct a situation was wrong? And this is why we have journalism in the public interest. This is why our taxes go towards something like a national broadcaster like the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. I've been involved in other campaigns. I've been involved in other campaigns involving adverse events in medical error. They've been top-line news. Some of the issues have ended up as being the top news of the day. Front pages, and front billing on the TV news. So I've had the experience of dealing with a topic that might get traction or big reaction from the public, but now I come back to tainted blood where the opposite is true. And yet, in many cases, this is a far bigger issue. It is Australia's deadliest ever medical scandal. We don't exactly know how many thousands of people have died because the government won't tell us. This comes decades after the worst of the years of the contamination of Australia's blood supply. So there's still a cover-up going on. And I think what happens is that the ABC and a lot of the media that you would have thought would take our taxpayer dollars and actually do it to run these difficult issues that people don't run towards, that not everyone wants to watch. There might not be a ratings winner. Contaminated blood won't win the ratings, that type of thing. But they don't rush towards it because the government has said, look, there's nothing to see here, nothing's gone wrong. I mean, the Australian government's advice on contaminated blood is that everything was done with the best science advice available, okay? So we know that not to be true now with the revelations that are coming out of the UK infected blood inquiry. We know that the Australian government knowingly allowed for blood to be collected from prisoners at a time when that was unsafe to do so. We know that they allowed for the enrolment of blood donors who were high risk. These were people who used drugs, these were people incarcerated in jail, and these were people who they tested positive for viruses, but used their blood anyway. Can you believe it? And as a result, we've got all of these people who've lost loved ones, we've got victims who are still suffering the effects of tainted blood and living in dire poverty. and just about everybody turns away, even our national broadcaster, the ABC. So this is why we pay taxes. And in Australia, we've got an ABC that won't go near it. It's challenging subject matter, sure, but it's in the public interest. More Australians are being killed by tainted blood than there ever will be by COVID-19. The ABC will play COVID-19 day in, day out, and it's affected far less people, but never contaminated blood. And that's because it's such a challenging subject matter. We've got the British government for decades involved in interfering down here with what went on. We've had the Australian government helping the British government get in the way of us receiving justice down here. We've had government-funded agencies attack us. We've had 360, everybody out opposed to us. And yet we're in the right. We were knowingly given blood that was contaminated, okay? And the evidence now is clear. So one day the cameras will switch on, one day the documentaries will happen, and one day this will make news. And that one day will come when people understand the public interest is best served when we look into things like contaminated blood. Thank you for your time today, and I hope this has been helpful in helping people understand, what it is that we're up against here and why it is that more than often than not people turn away. Thank you.